All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of the Post-Game Spread. I am your host, as always, Blake Helm. This is a very, very special episode to me. I've never worked harder on an episode, on a guest. This is the Jonathan Huizinga story. This is an odyssey of baseball. One of the most interesting people in baseball, one of the most worthy people in baseball, of a true deep dive, a celebration of their career, both as a player and as a coach. This guy had an over 10-year career as a pitcher, went to Michigan State. Essentially, his pro career was bookended by stints in affiliated baseball, which is incredible. He kicked around indie ball forever, saw the country, all those incredible experiences that indie ball brings, the indie ball grinders, if you're out there, you know. And then he's turned that, all he learned along that path, into being one of the most sought out independent pitching coaches in the game. He's the guy. $1 million arms are going to him. They trust him. They believe in him. You know, everyone from Matt Liberatore to Tarek Skubal, Corbin Burns, Josh Hader, all under the Huizinga umbrella. And this guy and I, our paths crossed 10 plus years ago on a reality show, and we've been friends ever since. And I'm so touched to be able to do this. I spent 7 months preparing this. There's an incredible amount of people, coaches, friends, teammates that participated in this. You guys are going to really enjoy this. A story of heart, of perseverance, of the best person around. This is Jonathan Huizinga. This is going to be the Jonathan Huizinga story. He didn't quit. Hope you guys enjoy this post-game spread. Here we go. And now a few words from our sponsors. We are proud to be brought to you by Hudson Chiropractic and the Hudson family. Located in Cape Girardeau, Missouri. You can find them at 3232 Independence Street, HudsonChiroCape.com, 573-335-7349. They've got over 700 five-star reviews, all five-star reviews on Google. That speaks for itself. This is, of course, my former teammate, friend, brother, Murray State great, Seth Hudson, an all-time great second baseman in Racer history. He finished second all-time in hits when his career ended. Hudson Chiropractic, your bridge to a better health. They can do everything you can think of chiropractic-wise, adjustments, soft tissue, DOT exams. Seth is really doing his thing down there, and Cape has a beautiful family, raising a couple sluggers. We really appreciate your support. Thank you, Hudson Chiropractic and family. We are also brought to you by GT Performance Consulting, where athletes gain new perspective, and the greater than mindset is the motto. This, of course, is the former baseball great Greg Taylor at Springfield High School, Forest Park, University of Louisville, and Yankees draftee. He can be reached at gtperformanceconsulting.com, connect at gtperformanceconsulting.com, or 314-250-4748. He offers a myriad of services, including the starting line, one-on-one, the Huddle Up program, and disc profiling. GT Performance Consulting is a sport and mental performance consulting practice dedicated to helping athletes reach their full potential both on and off the field. In today's world of sports, the pressure to perform is at an all-time high and has created a greater need for mental performance support for athletes. GT is here to help bring new perspective to athletes, parents, coaches, and support systems. Specializing in programs that cater to each athlete's specific needs, from stress management to confidence-building techniques, GT Performance Consulting focuses on the well-being of athletes so they can maximize their athletic experiences. Guys, Greg was a former guest. He really went through it in baseball with mental stuff and pressure, and it's become a full circle passion for him. Please use him if you have young athletes, even for yourself. It's very beneficial. It's a huge part of the game these days. We really appreciate GT Performance Consulting coming on board. Thanks, Greg. We are proud to be backed by Salvaggio Steel. Salvaggio Safe is their motto. These guys have been in business building rails for over 60 years, and they've always been incredible about putting money into the sports community, into the athletic community in the greater Springfield, Central Illinois area. And I'm absolutely honored that they felt like I had enough, like we were doing something special enough to be invested in. So they do it all. I mean, you guys can go look at them for, doing precision craftsmanship in many categories, including structural, miscellaneous, ornamental iron. They're AISC certified. These guys are just the best in the business. We really appreciate them. This deal was also brokered by good friend John Chisholm, who works there as well. So we appreciate Salvaggio Steel, Salvaggio Safe. Thank you. This episode is brought to you by Glisten Heating and Air. You can reach them at 217-341 or visit glistenheatingandair.com. That's GLISSON. This is owned and operated by Gibbs Gleason himself, a member of the 2000 Pleasant Plains baseball team that were state champs. That's the Dusty Bensko era, former guest. This guy's in the baseball community. He helps coach his son, who's in the local travel scene. This truly is the pros pro for HVAC in the area. I mean, this is the who's who of former pros that have used him. Let's talk about Corey Erickson, Jason Worth, Ryan Murphy, Jason Knadler, Justin Knadler, Brad Owens, Greg Morantz, Jason Washam, Eric Easley. His reviews speak for themselves. Call Glisten Heating and Air. They care about your air. We appreciate you. Start riffing a little bit. So my man, happy birthday. You just had a birthday a couple days ago, didn't you?
Yes, sir.
And I did as well. I was on the 12th.
Well, happy birthday. Yeah, October boy is here. And I had an anniversary too. I like to keep those close together so I can have a good memory.
How many years do you and the lovely Brittany have, my man?
17 right now.
Oh, man. Beautiful. Well, we're finally here, man. We're finally doing it.
Well, let's go.
This has been, I don't know, 7 months in the making, I think, since I first, well, we kicked around this idea for a long time, but probably 7 months since I actually started working on it to when you and I are looking at each other now. So you ready to rock, my man?
That's so wild. Yeah.
Okay.
How's my backdrop? Is it all right? I know
It's
there's
sick.
a little bit of a mirror. It's okay.
No,
All right,
you
cool.
look great. You sound great. Cool backdrop. I'm with it. So how's my backdrop?
Awesome. That's why I was thinking about mine.
You see my centennials?
I sure do right away.
Oh man, shenanigans. Okay, so I'll just start rolling here. So all right, guys. Welcome back to another episode of the Post Game Spread. I'm going to be your host as always, Blake Helm. Sitting across from me here, across from my computer screen here, Jonathan Huizinga. Been wanting to do this story for so long. We go back. Our stories are connected. I'll get into a little bit about what the Post Game Spread is for our new listeners here. Started this podcast about 2.5 years ago as a way for me to get back into the game. I had a wild ride through baseball myself, and I wanted to help others kind of talk about their journeys through the game. There's so much failure in baseball, so many life lessons, and I thought there's so many people out there that have interesting stories that deserve to be, dove into. And you're one of the guys that is, the antithesis of that, the idea of what this was. So cannot wait to have you talk about your career. You obviously have a career that is worthy of a deep dive as a player and then also as a coach, but we have to go through the player first, right? To get where you're at today.
I think it probably helps understand at least some of the perspectives and vantage points of things that.
Yeah. So let me go through a little bit of your background here. This is not brief, so just buckle up here. I'm going to be talking for a little bit, Johnny boy. So,
Right,
okay. Many know you as the Manimal, Zinger, one of the most sought after pitching coaches in the game. And we'll get to all that, but your story is rooted in an absolute journey through baseball as a player that is bookended by stints in affiliated baseball, which is insane. As a player, you went to the Connie Mack World Series with the Grand Rapids A's. We'll get to that. You started South Christian High School in Grand Rapids, Michigan, started Michigan State for the Spartans before moving on to pro ball. And this is where your career is so interesting and so fascinating. But starting off with the Kalamazoo Kings in the Frontier League, then getting picked up by the Brewers, playing for the Beloit Snappers, and an injury. You get back into independent ball, and the Odyssey begins. There's about 10 years of independent ball in there. Kalamazoo Kings again, Calgary Vipers, the famed St. Paul Saints, Schaumburg Flyers, Winnipeg Golden Eyes, San Angelo Colts, Yuma Scorpions with Jose Canseco and Tony Phillips. Can't wait to chat with you on that. There's a stint in the Mexican League, a stint in the Freedom League where we played together and against each other before finding your way back to affiliated ball at 34 with the Brewers. And I'm going to be honest, I don't feel comfortable even saying that you're done as a player. I think, was it Parker dropped the dime on you and said that you had some thoughts about maybe going and playing in Amsterdam, or you still got the itch to play?
I do. Yeah. I've been
That's
on
incredible.
a pretty extensive training program for about the last 4 months and just kind of continuing to rebuild and get after it.
Man, I love hearing that. You got some Satchel Paige in you, my friend.
That's right.
But
he's a lot of the inspiration, my brother.
Oh man, have you read his book? It's incredible. It's one of my favorite all-time baseball books.
And anything I can find my finding his path, I've
Satchel,
read, or yeah, or documentaries, or
what's
yeah,
how that he
there's
was
some
able
like
to.
cartoon books, and
Oh man,
he'd throw
love
back-to-back
Satchel Paige.
days too. I mean, it was like, yeah, awesome.
Satchel Paige is the best. Um, backstory interviews for this. So that's why this gets so big, because what I do is I go back and I talk to teammates, friends, wives, coaches, and I get an idea of who you were, stories, clips, quotes, lines. So we spoke with Mike Paul, your coach for the Grand Rapids A's in high school, Greg Gunderson, your pitching coach at Michigan State, Pat
Oh
Gill, your
boy,
friend and pitcher at Michigan State, Brandon Rogers, your catcher in indie ball, Joey Gathright, former big leaguer, certified car jumper, teammate in indie ball, James Hoyt,
amazing.
former
Yeah.
big leaguer, teammate of
Hmm.
yours in indie ball, still doing it. Um, and finally, the lovely Brittany Huizinga. She'll give us her take on your journey, and she was incredible too. When we circle back to your coaching part, when we get to there, this is the who's who of some stars here. We'll be hearing from some absolute dogs. Shelby Miller, big leaguer, Connor McGinnis, Dodgers assistant pitching coach, also one of the founders of Clean Fuego, Bo Brisky, Parker Markel, big leaguer, big leaguer. Parker's your fellow pitching coach at Prime Reaction. That guy's awesome. Edwin Jackson, one of the most interesting big league careers of all time. Tarek
No
Skubal,
doubt.
you know what it is. The 24 Cy Young, probably the 25. This guy's throwing 101-mile-an-hour sinkers in the eighth inning. He's insane. And lastly, your Karate Kid to your Mr. Miyagi, Libby. Matt Liberator, a big leaguer. Your protege. Hearing you guys' story and how you got him essentially as this talented ball of clay and what you've been able to mold, and so awesome, so touching. How I know Zinger here. This is cool. And I'm going to give you more flowers kind of as we go, because I don't want to get too emotional as we start, but you have done some really incredible things in my life. So I'll enjoy telling this. One of the most special baseball connections that I've made, we were on a reality baseball TV show that never aired that, some people know if they're within our circles, but it was called The Player with Cal Ripken. And both of us were there for 3 days connected. We made the final nine, never ended up airing. We'll get into that at some point. But then later on, we both played in the Freedom League together, and you were instrumental in getting me there. Getting my name into some ears there and getting me signed. So that's incredible. I remember seeing you and being like, oh, you had some aura. You had a mohawk at the time. You were a big health guy, spiritual, some tattoos, and I just felt drawn to you. And I was like, and then started to get to know you. And one of those guys, I don't know if you have some of these connections, but through my baseball career, sometimes you're only with someone for a month or a week or a couple months, but there are people that you meet that are special. And you're like, at least for me, I realize I don't want to let them go. So I've always tried to breathe life into our friendship, and we have been friendly ever since. So what was this 2012 when we did The Player?
Yeah, I think that was, yeah, 2012.
Long time ago. So we have this long-standing friendship, and we're finally doing it here now. Why I think this story is so interesting, and I've got into it a little bit already, but um, you're in a place now where the best arms in the game are coming to you, trusting in you, your methods. I think your methods are incredible. He takes these guys on these Sedona nature trips. He does earthing, water bags, decels, react plates, martial arts, breath work, BFR, meditation, earthing, diet, mental work. It's this incredible system that you have. There's a reason people go to you. So um, everyone raves about you. Everyone is warm about you. So I want to know, what made you, what experiences along your journey shaped you. I want to hear it all: the highs, the lows, the injuries, the triumphs, the people that helped you, supported you, believed in you. It's all beautiful. All right, John, what's up, buddy? That was a little
Oh
long
no,
winded by me, but how the heck are we doing today? We're finally here. What's up, my man?
fantastic. Happy to kind of get on. I think a lot of this process has been eye-opening for me, as far as giving appreciation to people, ideally while they're still here,
Sure.
right? Like, I think a lot of times, you know, you can go to a funeral and hear all kinds of great things about a person, but then, we, especially as dudes, sometimes, we try to tough guy, or,
Yeah.
I got this, or,
Sure.
whatever kind of that mentality is, versus like, for me, I think a lot of it's give credit where it's due,
Yeah.
because people have nudged me in a lot of directions as well. I've had
Yeah.
really good supports, which you've got to talk to a lot of them, but I think
Yes.
for me, the exciting part of going through this with you is a reflection and an appreciation,
Yeah.
but then at the same time, like, how do we continue to move forward with these relationships, and then
Yeah.
how do we continue to further our game,
Beautiful.
which is what drives me. I mean, and it's awesome. And as you know, it's more than a game
Yeah.
because it's the relationships, it's the
Sure.
people, but the game is such a
Yeah.
beautiful tool.
Perfectly put. And unlike you, I did a unique thing with you in prep for this, where I typically don't send a guest some of the material that I already have, but you are a special guy, and if John asks, you're gonna get it. So you asked to actually hear a couple of the interviews that I had. I believe I sent you Tarek Skubal and maybe Brisky. But
Yeah,
what
I've
was that
heard those
like?
too.
What was that like hearing those? Because obviously these guys, we'll get to that, but they absolutely raved about him. There's obviously a lot of love, a lot of trust, a brotherhood there. So what was that like hearing that for you?
I mean, I always like hearing things from other people's perspectives just because, I only have my perspective.
Sure.
And I think it was just, I would say rewarding, but also continue to nudge me as far as keep doing what we're doing, because some of the things
Yeah.
are unique to the relationship, right? Where it's like
Sure.
you might talk to a Libby or a Bo or a Scoob, and each one of those guys has had a little different journey because they've had different things that maybe I was able to help them with, or
Yeah.
a lot of times for me, it's less about having the right answers and it's more about knowing the questions.
Ooh.
So I think a lot of times it's up to the individual to develop their answers. And
Yeah.
for me, it's not so much, hey, this is the answer. It's more like, hey, here's a really good question. What do you got on this? And then we kind of dive into some self discovery. And I think
Yeah.
that's where, like, a lot of times for me, I like to say I work in the shadows, but it's like a lot of times it's like, for a guy like Bo, I know we've had conversations where it's like, it's like the angel and the devil kind of thoughts on your shoulder. And it's like,
Yeah.
I like to be the positive one where it's like maybe
Yeah.
I've got that one thought in your back pocket. And, for him, if you remember, I'm sure you do, but the breath and the confidence. And I mean, the way that he described it. Now I've heard that story through Scoob in another way because I think when uh when they initially were together with the Tigers, I think it came up that, they both knew me or whatever, or
Yeah.
however it came to fruition there. But it was like, hey, how do you know this guy? And it was like, and then I heard that story and I was like, oh, okay. Like, I like that a lot.
Are
Like,
we talking
that's,
about the wheelbarrow story?
yeah, about the wheelbarrow because it was like and just hearing him say it because I could go back there in my mind and I
Yeah.
think I had a guy like this. Joe Fletcher was a mentor of mine, a coach, a friend. He
Yeah.
he passed away back in 2008. Um, but he was just one of those guys that kind of helped mold me as far as a coach, but also kind of as a friend. And he was like that bright. Whenever he was around, it was like there was some fun to be had or some perspective to share. And sometimes it was completely off the wall but it would circle back, but
Yeah.
he was just such a beautiful soul. And I think that was part of my inspiration to help other guys learn how to believe in themselves because
Yeah.
there was times and I guess through my career I had confidence, like even talking to like my mom or, my parents, grandparents, whoever. And it was like as a young kid, I was confident on the field, especially.
Hmm.
But I think a lot of times we build that confidence through maybe a story like with Libby, but like through embarrassment. Like you get embarrassed by something, and then all of a sudden you're like, well, like the jump rope story with Lib, where it's like he was embarrassed, and he used that as fuel to take him
Yeah.
to a whole nother level. And I think that for me, it was a lot of training, a lot of I guess country boy type of splitting wood,
Hmm.
baling hay, or shoveling horse crap, whatever the stuff was that we were doing out there.
Hmm.
But it was I think the confidence came from a lot of that stuff, and then
Hmm.
my training, and then, you just get these little nudges from people. And Fletch was one of those guys where it's like he made me believe in myself even more than I already did.
Hmm.
And that's kind of what I heard in Bo's story, where it was like, well, if he was crazy enough to think that, maybe I could do it, and it's like,
Yeah.
I played catch with Bo yesterday, and I always see guys kind of where we started, where
Hmm.
it's like, okay, I can see him still as a freshman at the JUCO making the transition from a
Yeah.
outfielder and a pitcher to all of a sudden, like, hey, he's really good. I think we should really see what he can do as a pitcher. And
Yeah.
then just a few times instilling thoughts, even in between innings, where it's like, hey, you know how you did this, this, and this? Go try this. You're in a jam, go jam them. They're like, hey,
Yeah.
that changeup's really good today. Let's go. Like a little,
Hmm.
just that little extra belief that makes you sometimes go beyond what maybe you could previously do.
That's it, dude. There's so many. I'm so excited to be here with you. I put this clip out on Instagram a while back, but basically, from what I think I understand, what Bo said is that you guys kind of came up with this idea, this kind of funny thought about how he should be feeling about himself when he goes out on the mound. And essentially, he felt like he should be taking his boys out on the mound in a wheelbarrow. He should be feeling that confident about himself. So that's just like such a funny. I love it. I absolutely love it. It's
But you
perfect.
can totally visualize it too, right? Where it's like you can see, because pitching is so much confidence, even
Yeah.
even hitting, right? Where it's like,
Sure.
and sometimes, you gotta fake it till you make it in a
Hmm.
way.
Yep.
But also at the same time, I talk to a lot of coaches out there, and it's like some of these guys struggle with what we call like imposter syndrome, right? Where it's like,
Absolutely.
maybe, they pitched or whatever, but they're going through stuff, and they're like, am I really in a position that I can be teaching this? And I
Uh,
think that those are the times, like for me, where it was like, that's where I had to learn more. That's why, when we talk about, if I went back to like my injury, where
mhm.
it was like I was basically told by Western medicine that I would never pitch again. So I had to kind of go to that other, what I guess you'd say, like the Eastern philosophy, or,
Yeah.
more of the martial arts world, or more of the, learning how to use your breath, and just all these maybe strange things that all of a
Yeah.
sudden, I mean, it's funny because 15, 20 years later now, you're actually seeing some of that, like grounding is accepted, right?
Yes.
Like,
You were so ahead of your time.
if
So ahead of your
I was
time.
bare feet, 15 years ago, when people
Right.
are like, cussing me out for it. And now it's like, that you got guys out there just, and I think it's a good thing because it shows there's some progression in the game. But at the same
Sure.
time, is like, I think it's different when people try to be different to be different
Yeah.
versus when people are
Ooh.
different because they're unique,
Yeah.
because like for me, it was like, I was never necessarily trying to buck the system. I was never mad at the system, where it
Right.
was like, hey, this is me versus them. It was just, hey, this has failed me. What other solutions are out there?
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. And then that makes me think back to like, do you feel validation now in some of obviously your training methods that you've been using on athletes were unique 15 years ago, but a lot of them now are, mainstream and guys are using all this stuff, the water bags and all this stuff, all the proprioception stuff. Do you feel validation now that that's kind of caught on with the training community?
I think that could be a word for it. I mean, I think for me, I've continued to stay in the trenches, and just like with my own training, like I like to continue to scratch and claw for that next,
Yeah.
because once you get to a certain point, it's like, the return on what you're doing is less.
Uh,
Like I can take a young kid and you can start them. I mean, you look like a genius, right? The kid's never lifted before. They've never done nutrition. They have no idea what their breath is.
of
I
course,
mean, you
they're
have
going to get
guys
better.
that have like a
Yeah.
5, 6, 7 mile an hour jump like this. But then where I really like to be is with the guys that are like,
Already up
let's
there.
say at like the highest point, and they're literally having to fight and claw just for that
An
next little
inch.
inch. Like
Yep.
that's where I love to be,
Oh,
versus like the
yeah.
low hanging fruit. Sure,
Yeah.
like that can be rewarding too, but it's up to that person to do the work. and it always
Yeah.
is, right? And for me, it's they should always get the credit. Like I've never thrown. I get people that are like, "Oh, did you teach Tarek Skubal his changeup?" And I'm like, I've talked to Tarek Skubal about his changeup, but he throws his changeup. That's
Yeah.
him.
Yeah.
In no way, shape, or form is that me. Or
Sure.
Libby with his curveball. Like when he learned his curveball grip from a buddy of mine, Matt Hammonds, who was roommates with Kerry Wood. So Kerry
Oh,
Wood
cool.
had kind of, there
Yeah.
was a pass down between those guys years and
Yeah.
years ago, and then it got passed on to Matthew. But it's like people think sometimes where it's like, well, you must have taught that to him, and I'm like, well, I mean, I was there in the shadows guiding, but that's his pitch, that's his curveball. He threw it.
Right.
I was a sinker guy. You remember that? I had a
Oh yeah.
sinker and a slider, and that was
Heavy.
now those are mine, right? And it's
Yeah.
like the same thing where it's like, yeah, somebody might have showed me a grip, but at the end of the day, as an athlete, it's ownership, and that's what
Yeah.
where even as I continue to learn like new stuff, I guess technology wise or with this other stuff, to me, it's all about application. Where it's like there's a lot of
Well said.
neat stuff out there these days, but without application, I mean, you're just kind of chasing your tail.
Yes.
And I think that once you can find the application for the individual, then it's like if you're going to scratch and claw for that next little bit like we're talking about, it's like you might have to go back and revisit things.
Ooh.
And you want to do that with sandpaper versus like a sledgehammer because you've already got that good foundation.
Oh, that's
So it's I think we've talked about this, but the idea of when Michelangelo carved the statue of David, he never added anything to it. What
oh
he did is he eliminated. And
yeah.
that's kind of how I look at how I work, where it's like I'll tell guys, it's like I have a chisel and sandpaper. Sometimes you may have no idea I'm even working, right? Like we call it planting seeds, right? But I might ask you a question that leads you down a rabbit hole. That that's your discovery, right? Like the question kind of led you down that rabbit hole, and I love to learn because I get to learn from you. Like the Justin Dunn's training with me right now, and we've been diving down some rabbit holes when it comes to uh, the tempo of your delivery, with beats per minute with a song,
Ooh.
with vibrational frequencies of what it is you're seeking. And we've been playing with music, and then we'll take video of certain guys, and you can basically figure out the beats per minute that they're moving at, and then find
Interesting.
like kind of like what kind of music they like, but it's like there's this
Fascinating.
tempo and there's this, and
Awesome.
it's something I've already looked into a lot,
Hmm.
but I kind of nudged him down that rabbit hole, and he hit me up just a couple days ago. We were talking about it yesterday, but it was so fun because it's like now I gained a unique perspective because once again, I only have one perspective, but when I get to hang out, with some of these other guys, I now gain a new perspective that now maybe another athlete that I'm working with down the road is actually going to benefit from even more
It's all
by
connected.
osmosis,
Yeah.
and it's like, and it just
Oh, this is
the
so
same
cool.
thing where it's like I want to learn what he knows, but then also apply it. Okay, now to my training, how does that help me? So it's kind of a fun, yeah,
Beautiful,
it's a fun
man.
little cycle, and it's a
That's
daily process, right?
yeah.
Getting a little better every day, a little better every day.
Yeah. Oh man, that's I can tell this is going to be so epic, my brother. Man, so before we get going into like the actual questions and really getting deep into your stuff here, um, I actually set up a little sponsorship for the show because of Connor McGinnis. So we're going to be brought to you
Oh,
by,
let's go.
by Clean Fuego today. So usually I kind of fumble through my thoughts on it. I think it's an incredible tool. I'd love to hear you. You actually use it. Obviously, you're a pitching coach. Do you have any thoughts on why you think this is dope and this is a tool that is applicable to pitchers and anyone looking to throw better?
Absolutely. So I mean, when I first started using Clean Fuego was in 2020 over the pandemic.
Yeah.
We were in a backyard,
Yeah.
anonymous backyard, right?
Great story.
Like Fight Club, it was never there, right? I have so
Right.
much awesome footage that I never put out just because it was kind of frowned upon at the
Sure.
time. But anyways,
Yeah.
uh, Clean Fuego is an instant feedback tool. So
Mhm.
like a lot of times we'll put marks on the baseball, or in college we used to throw hockey pucks, but
Yeah.
hockey pucks were less balanced than like a clean fuego. But the clean fuego gives you instant feedback on how your ball is spinning, but also on what axis it's spinning.
Yeah.
So, and you can throw your other pitches with it too. So I've used it a lot for fastballs, but I've actually had really good success with changeups and breaking balls
Love it.
because it just gives that instant feedback, and we've done, things where you tie or you tape two baseballs together
Hmm.
and you throw those. That's like a good training tool. Or PVC pipes I'll do
Yep.
with the same idea because it shows you the access,
Yeah.
but it's less transferable to our skill versus with the clean fuego. It's like I can literally throw a clean fuego and then throw a baseball right after,
Yeah.
or a softball, or whatever the implement is I'm using, but I can literally instantly feel the difference and see the difference.
Yeah. Love it.
So,
That's way better than I could have done, my friend. So everyone, head
well,
on
I've
over to
used it a
Clean.
million times. I mean, it's awesome, and
Yeah.
it's really good too to like throw into a net and then video, because you can get this picture, a better understanding in your brain about what your ball's doing.
Love that. Okay, guys, head on over to cleanfuego.com. Use the tag post game spread to get 10% off your next purchase. Love these guys. Thank you to Clean Fuego. All right, man, let's get into it here. We're going to start your baseball journey. I'm hoping though this can just be kind of a standing appointment for us on Wednesdays for a while until we knock this out. I anticipate this being many parts, but let's start the journey. Um, Early life and first memories of the game. Tell me a little bit about what life was like for you growing up, mom and dad, that kind of fam, if you could give us a little bit there.
So I think, especially like early baseball life, I'm thinking I never played t-ball.
Really?
I think the first organized baseball I played was like, I want to say it was called Pony League,
Hmm.
if I remember right. It was in Door, Michigan, which is crazy. But leading up to that point, it was just a ton of wiffle ball and Nerf ball. I always remember I had like a box on the wall that I would throw this rubber bouncy ball into when I was a kid.
Hmm.
And I just think I had a genuine love for the game. My grandpa Bob, I can I can distinctly remember throwing me wiffle balls in the backyard.
Hmm.
I definitely remember watching the Tigers growing up. I think it was 84 they won the World Series. I was
Hmm.
born in 79, so I was 5 years old, a little young, but you still kind of remember just the energy around it, right?
Sure.
And
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think my love for it started in the backyard.
Really. So from an early age, you mentioned Pony League. Is that essentially Little League? Is that what you're same?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I think
Okay. Any special memories from Little League or Pony League that stand out?
I mean, I remember making all-star teams. I remember I would go stay at my dad's parents' house a lot of times, and I would go to games, and I remember loving the competition, but I remember loving pitching, like from whenever I started pitching. And I
What was it
remember I
about
threw
pitching?
hard, like I threw hard.
What was it about pitching? Why did that grab you and tug at your
You,
heartstrings?
I grew up shooting a lot of archery,
Interesting.
and I feel a direct connection from especially like instinctively shooting and throwing.
Okay.
And it just kind of always, it's almost like, I guess, savage, like hunter gatherer type survival
Yeah.
feelings.
Sure. That makes sense to me. And you already kind of answered this, but when you fell in love with it, so you said like pretty much right away when you started playing organized ball or even wiffle ball, you were starting to fall in love with the game.
Yes. Yep. And I remember I had a buddy, Jason, growing up, that we would go play in his front yard, and his dad. And I can just remember like a couple times too, like just you have those little distinct moments, but where it's like you made this one throw or this one swing,
Yeah.
and like the first time you hit a ball over the roof, and just
Yeah.
certain fun things. And then I also remember it transferred over to, I grew up in Michigan and we had a lot of snow, but like we would have like either epic snowball fights or like my dad
Yeah.
shot a lot of archery. So I would throw, I would just throw a lot. And
Yeah.
then we also, when we moved, I want to say I was probably third or fourth grade, and we moved into a gravel pit. So then I think it almost started. Guys would talk to me about my slot sometimes because I vary my slots, but it was like I have my rock skipping slot, and
Interesting.
it's kind of always it's
Felt good there.
ingrained in there, you know.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting because obviously you ended up being a guy that changed arm angles and eventually became kind of a sidearm guy. Yeah. Right.
Yeah, and I mean, but now I'm probably
Back
more
up.
over the top now than I've ever been, which
Really.
is a whole nother conversation. But yeah, just different, and it's kind of the whole thing. But I was a bit of a quarterback, and I always was striving to throw a baseball as well as I threw a football. Like I
Oh,
would
interesting.
throw a mean baseball, but like I'd throw a clean football.
Interesting.
And I think that's been kind of a fun. I mean, that could be a whole conversation in itself, but the the things that are the same, the things that are different, the ways we can influence the throw
Yeah.
by being either restricted by time or distance or making it more reactive. Like,
Yeah.
a quarterback, somebody's coming at you and you got to snap it off and bust it out there versus like sometimes as pitchers, we become robots. So a lot of times getting guys to get more instinctive again, closing their eyes, waiting for a clap, waiting for a go call,
Yeah.
or, throwing up a frisbee and trying to hit a frisbee, just like instinctive type of stuff
Hmm.
versus robotic type of stuff.
Interesting. And I too. That's interesting. I never heard anyone else say this, but I always felt like I threw a football so much better. My arm was more impressive throwing a football than it ever was throwing a baseball. I never could quite understand why that was. Obviously, there's probably some kinematic sequence in there that makes sense, but interesting to hear someone else say
There
that.
are things. Yeah, there are things, and there's stuff to do with the grip, I think, because the tension and instead of, sometimes 5 ounces, we squeeze it so dang hard, whereas
Hmm.
like the football's around 15 ounces and
Yeah.
it's a little bigger. Also, the supination, because when you're throwing that football, you're thinking about spiraling it
Yeah.
versus like sometimes somebody said, you had to do this or you had to do this when you threw a baseball
Yeah.
and it just
Interesting.
changes. I see it all the time with guys.
Okay. Um, was pro ball a goal from an early age, or did that evolve over time?
I mean, I feel like it was always, yeah, I feel like it was always there in my mind at least.
Okay. Okay. When did the travel ball, the Grand Rapids A's start for you?
I was 16
16 years old.
or maybe 15.
Okay. And this is when we're getting to Mike Paul, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Tell me a little bit about Mike Paul, what he's meant to you. From what I think I know, he was your high school coach. He coached you on the Grand Rapids A's. I've got a bunch of clips here I'm about to play, but I'd love to hear a little bit about what he meant to you as a coach, mentor, friend, anything.
Well, I got goosebumps, but
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I think especially mentally for me too, he was very good. He's very calm in his demeanor. Uh, he was very patient with me,
Hmm.
and I think that was needed, and looking back, it'd be fun to be in his eyeballs just to see what he saw. But
Young
I can
Zing.
tell you, I've had when we get to Gundy, I've had more in-depth conversations with Gundy just because of uh, I've seen him more recently, and
Okay.
we've had some pretty deep conversations about players and
Sure.
different stuff. But when it comes to Coach Paul, I think he was also a hunter. My dad was a hunter,
Okay.
so I feel like we had this connection with nature, which is something that I think was cool. And then just he was a scout for the Twins, so I feel like that kind of helped plant a seed as
Sure.
far as like the pro ball thing. And then the first time I ever threw on a radar gun was with him. So I think those are kind of some of the memories I have. But
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a beauty.
Let's go. Let's get into some of his clips here, and some of the beauty of what this podcast is hearing these guys' thoughts for the first time. You know, these clips, these guys this guy was in your life, 20 plus years ago, and hearing how they saw you at the time. So if you want to stop me, say pause. We can start riffing off something, but these are great talking points. So let's go.
All right,
First
cool.
clip, meeting Zing. You ready?
Yes, sir.
Let's go, buddy.
John, when he was probably 13 years old, he actually came to a tryout for a summer baseball team, but I had previously done some training with him because I owned a training facility and John did some training, but the biggest interaction after that point was they tried out for what was called the Grand Rapids A's, which was a travel baseball team, and he was trying to make the 14 to 16U level, and right away you could see the way his arm worked and the heavy sink that he threw on the baseball that there was something there. He was a big kid for his age, long, lanky, muscular. Very, very coachable, very open-minded. As it progressed, John made those teams and pitched and ended up pitching on our top team when he was 18 and going to Farmington, New Mexico, and pitching in the Connie Mack World Series there. And I go back, I mean, there's so many stories I could tell you. I'm trying to think of where I started. He was a unique kid in the sense that he always had a ton of questions and a very inquisitive mind, and he those different types of players that you coach. John was a guy that was always trying to get better, but always had a lot of questions and probably even self-evaluated at times because he wanted to be so good. He was just very hungry for information.
That's awesome.
Great teammate, great kid to coach. I coached him in high school too, 4 years at South Christian High School, and John became a huge part of the pitching staff. We actually made it to the regional final just because of his ability to bounce back from throwing innings, and I would literally put him at first base, and they get two guys on. I'd call timeout, take him off first, strike out the side, put him back to first. And that was we did that over and over all the way to the regional championship till he ran out of outs.
Really, that was some of the most fun I ever had,
durable,
for sure.
Threw tons of strikes.
It's almost over.
Well, I don't know. You asked me some questions. What else you thinking? Or am I
Incredible. Is that cool hearing him? There's all kinds of stories that he talked about.
Yeah, but I can hear his voice calm me right there. Like just hearing him talk. Yeah, it's just he has a calming presence.
Yeah.
For me. Yeah, that was so fun because I'd go to first base. I'd go back to first base, and then it's like if we got in a jam or anything, I'd get to come in. It was like I got training for my life in the future as a fireman role or a reliever, coming in with men on base.
Yeah, and there's he said some stuff. There's early cues about what you were going to become too, like always asking questions, inquisitive, hungry for information. Does that not sound like you? That's incredible.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah.
Right? Oh man, this is so cool. All right, moving on. Let's move on here to the I think Grand Rapids A's clip here. Here we go.
Yeah, I think one of the greatest ones is we were in the regional championship in high school, and I told you I would literally ride him all the way back and forth, take him out, put him in, put him at first base. And we were beating a team for the regional championship, East Grand Rapids, and the coach and their team knew the rules. I think it was 33 outs at that point you could throw. Johnny was still going, and I was bringing him in and out. And I looked over, and the coach was holding his hand up saying, he's got 3 outs. He had counted every out throughout that time. And we got the game won if John could finish because they can't touch him. Well, he got his third out, and I had to take him out. And, and I said, hey, you did a great job, but you're up here 33, and put in another guy, and we lost. And that was the furthest the school had ever gone in the history of the school to the regional championships. And John carried us. I mean, literally carried us. But that was a story that I can still remember. That coach so intent on getting John out of the game, he was counting every out. And unfortunately, he ran out of outs, and we lost the championship. But other times, John played for a.
Okay. You got anything on that clip, buddy?
I mean, I remember like yesterday. I got deep goosebumps. I remember pure disappointment too, like when I ran out of the innings, because there was, yeah, I mean, it felt good to be used in that role. Like he did a good job managing my rubber arm.
For sure. Let's move on here. I love this one. This is
Epic,
called
epic.
Tenacious Personality. You ready?
Okay, yeah.
Let's go, buddy.
Why was Jon unique?
I think it goes back to that passion. He wanted to be a big leaguer, and at the end of the day, everything he did, he did it to detail, and that's what brought him to where he is today, I believe. Because I always tell guys three things: that dying thirst to be the best player, surround yourself with good people, and pay attention to detail. And Jon did all those things in the end. He wanted to be the guy that when you go to the ballpark, you're coming to see Jon Huizinga pitch, and he was very, very good under pressure. I mean, especially in high school, he was absolutely lights out. You could give him the ball with second and third with one out and a winning run on third base. He'd get people out. He just he competed, and he was given a gift. He was given a gift when he threw the ball. He couldn't throw it straight.
Yeah,
I mean, it had heavy sink, and then he developed even to staying into a lower arm slot and throwing a slider, which really was a great combination for him with the way the ball came out of his hand, and then having the opposite effect with a cutter or slider.
No, I love that.
I think the biggest thing with Jon was he wasn't going to quit. He just wasn't going to quit. I've had so many players. I mean, I've done this for 40 years, and I've got guys that have made it to the big leagues all the way to little league, and I look back and I think of the guys that so many gave up, because they had injuries or girlfriends or whatever came into their life.
Goosebumps.
Jon just kept plugging along. And the next time I'd hear from him, got signed by a ball club, and then he get released, and then he get signed, and then he go to independent ball. He's a true story of that tenacious personality that said, I'm going to get there whatever I have to do, I'm going to get there. Yeah, it was pretty impressive. And then I saw his success out there, and he started picking up some players that he developed into, great pitchers and pitching in the big leagues to this day. And it wasn't surprising to me because I know that he was going to instill everything he was into them.
Yeah. Oh,
what a clip, man.
Wow.
Some things jump off to me that he said he wasn't going to quit. Is this like, that's your whole career, right?
That's me. That is definitely me. Guilty.
and that you did everything to detail and that you were awesome under pressure. Do you have any thoughts on in that clip that you just played? Anything that jump off to you?
I mean, just kind of that same thing, but gives me like the kind of goosebump feeling, but like
major goosebumps.
But yeah, I mean, and that's, if there's anything I can instill in players, I think that is it too, where it's, we might have different mechanics, we might have different breath, we might have different mentalities even, but I think that never stop, keep going, find a way to get it done.
Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. What do you say? Never going to quit. Yeah.
Yeah. He said he wasn't going to quit. I got literal goosebumps when he said that. Both when he said it to me.
I did too, like deep too.
Yeah.
Those are like, that's rad.
Cool. Is this cool for you so far? Obviously, this is a unique podcast where I'm playing clips for you and we're reacting. So
yeah, it's kind of wild, brother. I mean, it's like I was telling you before, but it's like in a way, it's almost a form of like therapy too, just because it's like we're
100%.
so nose down, hard, go that like sometimes it's like, oh wow, like
let's look back.
Not necessarily, kind of like smelling the roses, but in a way too, it's like it.
Yes.
For me, I'm just going to get right back on the trail, but it's nice to kind of be like, oh, that is something that I've sought out to do.
Yeah.
And I've accomplished that, but now keep going. And what else is possible?
I love it, brother. All right. This next one is going to be called Different. Here we go.
I think a lot of his self-esteem and it came on through his success, and then he had a passion to make guys better. But I would say, yeah, he was different. Jon was definitely different. He was a different thinker. You talk about outside of the box a little bit. Probably Jon. Most of the guys were conformist in the sense that they just did whatever you asked them, and Jon would do that too. But he was always thinking of a better way to make something work. And I can remember as his pitching coach discussing things with him and thinking, he's hearing me, but he's still thinking about other stuff. I think that's what made him what he is today, because I don't want to say never satisfied, because Jon was never a rude kid, but I think he was he wanted to figure out the best way to do everything he did to the most extreme point. And I think he's still that way today. And how he motivates kids today, I see some of his stuff too, and I think, Johnny, what are you doing? But I realize he's getting out of kids at a different level than I could. Now I still coach pitchers to this day. I have a facility here in Michigan, and I train more old school. I mean, we use some Rapsoda, we use some metrics, but we don't employ a lot of the things John will do, group finding things, take them hiking, and stuff that's I think works with kids today because they. With social media and what's going on with these kids.
Totally different world. Yeah.
Oh, my God. You got to get their attention somehow.
Yeah.
I think that's what's made him very popular is that he's fun and he's also very informative and he's had success. Let's be honest. When you start having success, people are going to come because they're going to figure out what are they doing over there.
That's the dang truth.
I think that's what's happened with Johnny. I think he's built some really good pitchers. But he went in the trenches. I remember when he started out. He was just training a guy here and there.
Got anything, buddy?
Just awesomeness.
Yeah. Some things
I mean, I
to
think
me. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I think just some of the unique stuff is just. I think we run into interesting problems, I guess, where it's like if a guy's lacking, let's say, athleticism, like sometimes we need to find different ways to get it. Or, a lot of times I never give advice unless it's asked for.
Yeah.
So, and I had to learn that kind of the hard way, right? Where it was like sometimes as a young coach, you would see something and you'd try to fix it.
Yeah.
But the athlete was not in a place where they could even hear it, receive it, or comprehend what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So I think there's a certain patience that comes with coaching after a while where it's like, okay, I can keep kind of nudging that way. I can ask questions. But ultimately it's up to them to like pick it up and be like, okay, yeah, that's this, and this.
Yeah. I love it. A couple of things that jumped out from that clip to me was he calls you a nonconformist. Pretty accurate. Think outside the box. Pretty accurate. Take in all the coaching. Like you were a coachable guy, but he could tell that you were thinking about stuff and you were thinking, maybe is there a better way to do this? Why are we doing this? And that is just all these clues, man. All these clues to where you're at today. This is so cool to hear. The last one I have from him is going to be rare guy, and then we will move on.
I think the biggest thing, Blake, was his durability, his ability to compete, and then that role he played his senior year to get us to the regional championship where he came in and out sometimes every other inning, sometimes every inning, depending on the game. It was really proved to me that, this kid could compete, could throw strikes under pressure, because every time he came in, there was like one out with the bases loaded or nobody out with second and third. And he was, it was amazing what he did because I've never had a kid like that since.
And what a weapon to be able to use someone like that, That's pretty incredible.
Oh, coaches on the other dugout would be crying. I just say, look at the rules. As long as he doesn't leave the field, he can go back and forth. And, it was amazing because they would scream, he can't do that. John would come in and punch out a couple of guys who put him back to first. That's probably one of the greatest things I remember about John. And he was never afraid to take the baseball. He was like wanting baseball.
Yeah.
Always. And you as a former player can understand those guys can be rare.
Absolutely.
And,
love it. That concludes our clips from him. I'd love to hear more about your kind of Grand Rapids A's experience. You guys went to the County Mac World Series. Is that accurate?
We sure did.
Let's hear about it, man. You got any cool memories from that?
1998.
Let's go.
It was
baby.
incredible. It was my first ever police escort.
Really?
So we're flying or whatever. I remember the police escort, and then I got to pitch in 3 out of our 4 games. So I started the first game. I threw a complete game, and then I'll always remember I came in. I think it was my 3rd appearance, and it was against like Puerto Rico. And the first pitch I threw was behind the guy's bat, and it hit his bat for a foul ball. And I was like, this must be a good day. Cause I think at that point, I mean, I was rubber, but I threw a lot. Like I threw 7 innings the first game, and I know I
Yeah.
came in relief. I had a day off, and then I came in relief, and then I came in relief. But uh, that was truly one of my favorite baseball memories ever. Was
Really?
pitching for Coach Paul, just the way that he was able to use me. But then that summer going into right before my freshman year at Michigan State, yeah, that was the Connie Mack World Series, and yeah, beautiful, beautiful memories.
Cool
I always
experience.
remember I got a picture of me shaking. It was after the game, the first game when we beat the team we beat. I think it was the Dallas Mustangs. Yeah, it was. We beat them like
Okay.
7-3. And I remember my grandpa was there, and I was shaking his hand, and he'd always like to shake my hand and squeeze it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But I could always, squeeze him back or whatever. And it was like in this particular time, I was squeezing his hand and he was squeezing it harder than I could squeeze back. And I looked at him and he was like, he was welling up with tears, but you could tell it was one of those moments that just sticks with you, and it was
Yeah.
like, I feel like the confidence that carried me through my professional career was instilled in me during those years.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
part of it kind of in
Yeah.
that same thought, but I had my uncle Mike was at a game, and it was when I was playing for the 15s that coach is talking about, and we were playing against the 17s and 18s.
Yeah.
And I'll always remember this day. It was at Valley Field there, and I came in and punched out the side, and it was like their three best hitters, and it was on all heaters. And it was afterwards, and my uncle Mike comes up to me and he's like, "Johnny, you got ice in your veins, kid." And it just kind of always is one of those things. Like if I had like a comic book card of like, how did this whatever alter ego start? And it was like back then where it was like
Really?
ice in the veins.
So
Yeah.
did moments not feel too big for you then? Was that kind of a theme moving forward?
I think I was really good. And I think this is still one of my strengths, but is being present or being where
Mm,
my feet are at. So
beautiful. There
like
it is.
the fact that I'm able to
Perfect.
be fully present and engaged in that moment, like,
Yeah.
and there was even times where, and it's kind of laughable now, but I had a pitching coach, Evan Grussell, who was a player coach. We played together in Calgary. He was awesome, and he could remember every pitch he ever threw. And there
Wow.
was a couple times like I come off the field and he'll be like, "Hey, why'd you guys throw this or that?" And I'm like, "I have no idea what you're talking about." Like I was literally so engaged in just moving from moment to moment,
Yeah.
and my brain just for whatever reason. Now, if I go back and watch video, I could tell you just like this. But like it's almost like I've been what is it, Men in Black, where they do like the bright light and
Yeah.
it flash bangs and you got no memory of what happened. That's literally when I had my best games. That's the feeling.
Oh, that's beautiful. That reminds me of something from the Dowdy Chang. It's like once the work is done, it's forgotten. And that's
Mm, mm.
beautiful right there, man. And that's interesting too, because obviously as time has gone on, you've gotten more into, your mental stuff, your Eastern philosophy, earthing, all this stuff, but you were present where your feet were at as a high schooler. That's pretty cool.
I mean, I think a lot of it came from like hunting and from archery
Like the
because
quietness
it
of that,
was
the kind of
like,
meditative state you get into for those kind of things.
yeah, like the
Interesting.
zone of the Zen,
Ooh,
the
there we
Zen
go.
where
That's
it's
what's
like,
up.
and it's like external. It's
Hmm.
especially I think shooting instinctive and then like throwing instinctive. It's an external versus, we have as a pitching coach, I'll say there's two ways. Like sometimes we'll coach over the rubber, where it's like we might be working on the delivery, the breath, whatever it is,
Yeah.
and then we'll have at the plate, which is the external, where it's like instead of how do I throw a good pitch, it's what does a good pitch look like. So it's
Yeah.
all external.
Okay. Gotcha.
And I think that's something I was able to take, whether I was aware of it or not, might be another conversation,
Hmm.
because I think some of that stuff, especially if it comes to you, let's say, I'm going to use a word, but naturally, like if you kind of are naturally gifted in that way, I think
Yeah.
sometimes it's difficult to, if you go away from it, to get it back
Oh, interesting.
versus like if it's something that like a skill that you had to earn or learn. then I feel like it's easy. You know, there's certain skills that are earned and learned versus
Ooh,
the ones that are like innate, you know, and I
skills
think the
earned and
things
learned.
that are innate, you have to return to center. And this is where a lot of times in the off
Love that.
season with my pro guys, it's like we need to reverse engineer back to a time when maybe they were 12 to 14 years old and they have
Yeah.
first, like their genesis thought of this, the beginning of the joy or the love or the
Yeah.
connection to the game, and
Oh
then
man.
it helps remove the noise, because a lot of
Beautiful.
times that's all it is just noise, and a lot of times it's external noise that somebody else put in there and you allowed to be there whether you thought about it or not, and then it kind of started to ingrain itself.
I'm so
So you
glad
got
we're
to
here,
kind of
man.
get to the roots and pull it out, right?
This is incredible. I'm lucky to be here talking with you, man. This is incredible. I hope people out there are listening to this incredible knowledge, this lifetime that you have accumulated, man. This is so cool. Let's get into some of your recruitment stuff. At a high school, I've got a Greg Gunderson recruiting story here. How about he?
Awesome.
How about he leads us in? You ready for that?
Sounds good.
Let's go, buddy.
I'll tell you a great recruiting story. So,
Let's go.
we're recruiting all kinds of guys. We're doing things, and I knew Western Michigan was involved.
Hmm.
Well, we hadn't had him in for a visit yet, but I was talking to him about trying to get set up, recruiting, guys move around, guys fall off the list, they move up the list. Well, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna call Huizinga and get him set for visit. Well, he's ready to commit to Western Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy goes, I'll call you at 7 o'clock on Tuesday. Well, I call him at like 7:15, and that dude hadn't called yet.
Uh-huh.
And I go, hey, we want to bring you in for a visit and make an offer. And he goes, yeah, it'd be great. Let's go. But, well, I don't find this out till after he commits, that he had already, with his family, had committed to Western. And
Oh, really?
if that guy called at 7, I would have never had him.
Wow.
He was late
Oh, man.
calling.
That's incredible. I love that. It's really cool how stuff like that lines up sometimes, right?
Oh yeah, I had never met him. I never had what is it? He's that a 25-year relationship with him.
Yeah. Huh.
And it's just funny how everything happens for a reason. I always say God makes His own timing.
What you got, man?
What a beauty.
Yeah.
I honestly, I remember being recruited by Western.
Uh-huh.
I mean, now that he says it, that sounds like that's how it went down.
Really?
I remember a little different part of this story, but it was before, because I had because it's kind of another, no coincidence kind of thing, where Michigan State was coming to watch a guy, Andy Van Hecken, who was a left-handed pitcher that was, he was going to be my roommate, and then he got drafted by the Mariners, but we played together with the Grand Rapids A's. And I want to say, like, we were throwing a doubleheader, and they came to watch him, but I threw the first game of the doubleheader, and he threw the second game, and I think I struck out like 14 or 15 guys that day,
Okay.
and that's kind of what got me on that map. But yeah, Gundy's an absolute beauty. I still talk to him too. He's mentored me on off the field as a coach. He's a gem.
So when did you start hearing from colleges? Who all did you talk to? Did you go on any other visits, or how did that go for you?
I just remember visiting Western and Michigan State.
Okay.
And I just remember, like, Western's pitching coach or head coach was at a lot of my games, because it was like back then, they'd have the radar gun, and you knew that they were a scout. But
Sure.
yeah, I think the recruiting process is obviously so much different these days.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Right.
But it was like, for me at the time, I mean, Michigan State was the dream school anyways. I mean, my
Yeah.
uncle used to take me there for basketball games, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of green and white in my blood from a young age, even though I had other family members who loved the other guys.
Now, did you go on a visit there? If
To
yes,
Michigan
how,
State?
yeah.
Yeah.
Do you have any memories from it? Anything worth talking about there?
I just remember it being, and I remember this overall, but like it's such a huge campus.
Hmm.
Like it literally, East Lansing is like its own, well, it is its own town. But I remember the complex, definitely remember at the time was, we had a right field was 301 feet.
Oh, short porch.
And yeah, and it was kind of because the river, it had to be that way.
Really?
But I do remember the Spartan statue,
Hmm.
which I still remember to this day. I actually got a picture of my garage. But yeah, I just remember loving it, and I felt at home, right away. But I think some of it because my Uncle Mike used to take me to the basketball games there.
For sure. Okay. Then, at some point in your life, you took this iconic picture where you're like holding a ball that's on fire and you've got your Michigan State stuff on. When did you take that? That's incredible.
Let's see, that would have been, I think it was when Libby won his gold medal with Team USA
So cool.
18U. So maybe 2016 or 2017.
So iconic. I'm gonna have to use that for one of these episodes as the thumbnail for it. Let's so then you get there as a freshman. This is your dream school. Things are working out for you. You're on your path. What do you remember about arriving there as a freshman? First impressions, stuff like that.
I remember that I could compete at that level with what I had. I remember
Okay.
right away, and it was challenging, but I loved that part. I mean, it was hard. They trained us with Gundy. I can tell you a little story about Gundy, but I
Please.
distinctly remember our first meeting, and he might have talked about this with you, but we come in and basically sit down in the office, and it's like along the lines of this. He's like, "Your name is no longer Jon Huizinga. Your name is BBMF." And I'm like, and I kind of look at him, and I can hear him right now, like, big bad mother, effer. And I just embraced it. And I feel like that was
That's
a
great.
mentality, that was a chapter of kind of starting with what I call alter ego,
Ooh.
right? Where it's like it's developing that alter ego. When you're on the mound, this is what you are. And
Yes.
I think as a recruiting class, they brought in, like, we had some big arms. And I remember that, I want to say it was our senior season, we made it to the playoffs, and it was the first time that they'd made the Big Ten playoffs in a minute.
Yeah.
So I think our recruiting class was good. I want to say we had 6 or 7 guys. I just fell into that thing, but with that got drafted our senior year, and I think a couple of them were juniors, but we had a bunch of guys get an opportunity to go to pro ball.
Solid roster. Okay, then.
And I was undrafted, and I ended up playing for parts of 13 years after that. So
Crazy. Yeah.
pretty wild.
So you did not feel overwhelmed, felt like you belonged, like your stuff played. Coach Gunderson mentioned that obviously you've turned into this kind of health. I hate to say the word guru, but I mean that in the best way. But a health exercise guru, kind of a guy that's huge in your life. He said that wasn't really your thing when you showed up. He said you weren't really a health conscious. You weren't in great shape. You didn't even really know how to work yet when you kind of got there. Would you agree to any of that?
100%. We laugh about it all the time because, like, he might have called me this, but he'll call me like Johnny F and Z, right? So he's like, Johnny F and Z. He's like, you remember when you used to think you worked hard? And we laugh about this now because it was
Yeah.
like, yeah, I mean, you have this certain threshold that you think you have, and then you learn how to push it. You learn
Yeah.
you have teammates that run faster, jump higher, lift more, and I think that culture kind of bred that. But yeah, 100%. I mean, a lot of my nutrition, and especially like not drinking. I think, especially when we're at school and college, we definitely we partied,
Yeah.
which I think is something that I had to learn the hard way, but that's definitely not a positive when it comes to being an athlete. Your
Sure.
recovery goes out, your sleep goes out.
Right.
That was a hard lesson for me to learn, but yeah, I think even nutritionally, like some of that stuff, kind of like I was talking earlier, the student has to be ready for the teacher to show up.
Yep.
For
When
me,
the
it
student is
was,
ready, the teacher will appear. Is that it at the line?
yeah,
Yeah.
something along those lines. Yeah,
Yeah.
I had one of my best buddies in college. At the time, we thought it was a heart attack, but he took his life, and it it's why I stopped drinking. It's why I I think I gained 8 miles an hour back on my fastball. I had been up to like 94, but I had depleted. I was up to 252 pounds, and that was kind of like a nasty wake up call, but
Yeah.
it was what it was, and it pushed me in a whole nother direction for sure.
Interesting. I've got a clip here from Gunderson. Rest in peace to your friend.
Thank you,
Learning
brother.
how to work here. This will be a great playoff here.
Just like most young guys, when they come to college, they don't know how to work.
Uh-huh.
They don't know what they're capable of because they had ability before and they wrote that. And there were some, interesting moments of the weight room and conditioning and running and just the process that you try to teach them
Mm-hmm.
that they have to go through, because he's not the most gifted runner
Okay.
type guy. He didn't like running too much. And, something would happen. I'd be like, Johnny, you see those guys running out there? He goes, yeah. I go, you see anything wrong with it? He goes, no, they're running okay. And I'd be like, man, that's bullshit that you think that's okay how they run.
Huh.
And he would like look at me. I'm like, guys that run like that don't have success.
Hmm.
So there were like 3 different groups running. It was then the next group ran. I go, see how those guys run? They're committed to it. They're getting after it. They're working. I go, that's how you have to run. He goes, oh, okay. I get it.
Love it.
Interesting.
I can totally get a feel for this guy as a coach. I'd love to hear, I didn't ask you this when we started, but I'd love to hear a little bit about more your relationship with Coach Gunderson, like what it evolved to, like what he meant to you, stuff like that. Anything there?
Gundy he was there my freshman through my junior year, and I mean, I cherish him. He taught me a lot about the work ethic stuff that you're talking about, but also it was just like days I always remember just going and playing catch with him. There's certain times of the year where you're allowed to have practice.
Yeah.
However, all those rules were back then. But I just remember there were certain days where we would play catch. And that was some of the most, because he threw sinkers and sliders too. And it was just, I feel like that's part of what molded me too,
Yeah, cool.
was just having a simple catch with him. But it was a lot of times the mental versus even now, like mechanics. Like he's really good with mechanics, but I think naturally I had good throwing mechanics. There was certain things that I did really well
Yeah.
instinctively that I think he was smart enough to leave alone.
Oh,
Whereas like as a coach now, I the same thing where it's like if there's no cookie cutter here, but it's like everybody throws a little bit different.
sure.
Everybody has things, tempo based, or they have a move that makes them unique, maybe hides the ball, maybe.
Right.
And I think he was smart enough to know when not to say something. And I
That's
think,
awesome.
even as a hungry young athlete, I can even remember like sometimes even like maybe wanting more feedback mechanically, but like looking back, I th- I think I'm more now aware of he was leaving it alone because it was kind of like the idea if it ain't broke, don't
Yeah.
break it, right? Or
Sure.
or
Don't
don't
fix
fix
it.
it.
Yeah.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it. A little words of negation there, but yeah. So I think he was very wise, and I mean he's a guy I still talk to. I mean at a minimum of probably once a month.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just to hear his voice, and other times it's to ask him a question. I mean, he had Mark Mulder,
Yeah.
who was at Michigan State before us, and then he kind of helped him, not kind of, he helped him through his training career and off seasons, and he's a mentor still to this day.
I love hearing that. And something that stuck out from what you just said is I feel like there is a trail of tears in baseball of guys that had some of their innate movements coached out of them, and
All
what
the
made them
time.
special. And that's so awesome that this guy had the foresight to do that, 25, however long, many years ago that was. Because I feel like back in that era, there was a lot of coaches that were just like, this is how you're going to do it. You're going to do it my way. These are the mechanics. We're going to change what you're doing. So that's beautiful.
Yeah, I
Yep.
think he was definitely ahead of his time. I think it helps that he played as well,
Sure.
because he has a credibility, but also there's experience there,
Yeah.
where it's like a lot of times I always refer it this way, but like if I was going to learn martial arts from somebody, I'd want to make sure they can kick my ass versus if I'm going to go learn martial arts from somebody and I can just throw them around, like what's the point here, right? A lot of times guys are learning pitching from
Yeah.
guys who have not pitched high leverage situation.
Yeah.
Maybe they're really good at the analytics or there's certain parts, but at the end of the day, it's about getting outs in
Yeah.
pressure key situations, not about beating the machine. Like
Yeah.
TrackMan's never swung a bat.
Yeah.
So
Beautiful, man. This is awesome. I'm looking at your stats here. It looks like some relief in your freshman and senior years, and kind of started in the in between years. Can you kind of speak to how your role changed over time there?
yeah, so initially I started off in relief. And then I remember my first start was against Ball State,
Mm-hmm.
which was a non-conference start, and I threw really well. And from then on, I was a starter until my senior year. We got a new pitching coach halfway through the year, Joe Fletcher, who I was talking about earlier, Fletch.
Mm-hmm.
And he happened to like me more as a reliever.
Okay.
So, and he's the guy that kind of dropped my slot a little bit.
Yeah.
And we did some things, had some good success. But yeah, I
How
think
did you
I
feel about that?
got to do a little bit of everything. What's that?
How did you feel about that? Like, did you prefer to be a starter at that point, or did you have feelings towards that?
I I liked certain parts of the routine that you can have as a starter,
Yeah.
but part of it's probably because of the way Coach Paul used me in high school. But I loved coming in with men on base. I
Yeah, that
loved
pressure.
coming in when guys are in a jam. I love late inning, whatever you want to call pressure's a privilege kind of a thing, or
Mm-hmm.
coffees for closers, or whatever you want to, whatever phrase you want to throw out there. But it's like that fit to my mentality, I think.
See that?
And same thing in my pro career. I was more started as a reliever. Then I think like year 10, all of a sudden I was a start. Jose Canseco made me a starter
I saw that.
because I had an immaculate inning in spring training where I threw 9 pitches and punched out the side. He called me in his office and he's like, "All right, I know what I did. What'd you do? Which general manager's daughter did you knock up? Which drug test did you fail? Who'd you punch in the face?" And I'm like, "None of the above, none of the above, none of the above." And he's like, "Well, what are you doing here?" And we talk, and he's like, "You're my opening day starter." And I'm like, "Jose, I've been a closer for 8 years." And he goes, "You're my opening day starter." and there we go. There's more fun to go with that one. But yeah, that's kind of been, and coaching guys now, a lot of times I just tell them they're pitchers, right?
Okay.
And it's like, if you can play the game one pitch at a time and not attach yourself or your ego to a role, you're
Uh-huh.
better for a team.
Okay.
Now you'll fit
Yeah.
into a role, and I think good managers use guys in roles they're successful. But I always enjoyed the guys on base come in and get a ground ball, get weak contact, punch somebody out. That was
Yep.
my wheelhouse.
I love it. And dude, I cannot wait till we get to the Jose stuff when you were in Yuma. So it's Jose, it's Tony Phillips is there as a 52-year-old. Is that accurate? Or he's up there.
Yeah, I love Tony. And then
And
Ozzie Canseco was there too.
And then
Jose's brother.
Joey was there with you too?
Joey Gathright was there. We had Willie Ibar. We
What a
had
roster.
Luis
That must have been a riot.
Oh, we were so stacked. It was a traveling circus. straight up. Chris Britton. I mean, there were some dudes on that team.
I can't wait
That
till we
was,
get there.
yeah, that'll be a fun one. There's some stories I can probably tell, and some that we might have to save for a cigar sometime. But
I will thank you. Hey, you know what? For you guys listening, Jon has invited me out to come on a Sedona trip sometime. So I'm gonna make that trip sometime, and we'll smoke that cigar sometime, my friend.
oh no,
And who was it? Was it Tarek? Yeah, I think Tarek Scuba was talking. He had well, we'll get to it, but he had a clip talking about your aura kind of like one time you just like came rolling up to like a session you guys had, and you were like blasting some Bob Marley coming out of the car, and like some cigar smoke came rolling out, and he was like, "Man, this is a special kind of cat here." And actually, I was listening. So I got up at 4:00 this morning. I get up early and meditate, but after that, I've been listening to Bob Marley all the way up until we started today because I wanted to get in your zone. I love Bob Marley too. I know you're a big Bob guy, aren't you?
mm-hmm,
Do you,
definitely.
do you have a favorite Bob Marley song of all time?
Probably Bend Down Low.
Oh, great song. I was jamming to Coming In From the Cold today. That's probably my favorite of all time though.
Yeah,
Love
that's
Bob
good
Marley.
too. I mean, Three Little Birds is always good. I mean,
Yep.
there's so many good mixes out there now, but
Yeah.
yeah, and I know Joey Gathright would tell you Mattis Yahoo as well, because that was another one that
Yes.
we got in our clubhouse with.
He said that you
So,
turned him on to that, and now he's a reggae guy. He listens to it. Sick. All
yeah,
right. And then,
he's a gem. Yeah, we'll get to
all
him
kind
too.
of stuff. He had a great story about coconut oil with you too, and like all kinds of funny stuff. We'll get to our Joey Gath. But
I'm sure there's going to be some funny ones.
what was your favorite year at Michigan State?
Oh boy. I mean, I'd say probably my senior year.
Why so?
Just because of the crew we had and just I think the culture that we had built by then with kind of our class that had came up and through.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
It was a trying year for us too, because Gundy left halfway through the year and then Fletch came in. So there was a transition kind of a phase.
Yeah.
And I think it made a certain part of us grow up. Like that
Okay.
was one of the first. I mean, I remember, man, when Gundy left, I mean, I was probably 20 years old. I was crying like a little baby.
Pretty upset.
You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was like, how am I going to do this without Gundy? Because he was so important.
Right.
And then I think it was Fletch was awesome, but also I think there was a certain growing up that happened through that process where it was
Ooh.
like, ultimately no one's going to throw the ball for you.
Yeah.
Right. And you might have this awesome coach that helps you with this and helps you with that. But at the end of the day, it's you versus that guy.
Yeah.
And that's the
That's
primal.
awesome. So from that inspired growth, you had to grow and like be on your own. I mean, obviously
Uncomfortable growth too. Yeah.
there was still a pitching coach there, but you had to grow in ways. That's kind of leads me into my next question was, were there any tough moments that you had to grow from there? And like you just kind of knocked it out. Is there anything else that you feel like any moments at Michigan State that you look back on, they're like, man, that was a big thing for me?
I mean, I think definitely the mornings, like Gundy would get us up early. We would have to go run around the campus, and then we had to run the volleyball courts. We'd do sprints. Okay. And I feel like there was a certain mentality that it created with us. And it's kind of like he was talking about those three groups I can remember, because there was multiple guys on our team that would cut through the woods and like wait.
Cheaters, yeah.
And then join the group. And I'll just always remember those guys specifically for that. And then Gundy, we'd be running and he would, it'd be the middle of winter. And there he is driving his green Bonneville, just like at the slow, there's no traffic, whatever, but we're the ones running. And he was always watching.
Yeah.
And it was like the days that you thought nobody was watching, there he was right around the corner. And there was just like certain accountability, but also like he cared.
Yeah.
And he cared about the things that mattered versus like, I think a lot of times, coaches love the guy that's pitching really good, but then the guy, the next guy up, and then but he was more, I think, character developing, and I'll always look back on that. I think some of those struggles, some of the conversations, the challenging ones.
Yeah.
But I mean, also, I think as a as a whole in baseball is like you're gonna ride roller coasters, and there's
Yeah.
the more steady you can be mentally here while the game does some of this stuff, and I think the stick togetherness that we developed as a team through,
Yeah.
I mean, there was one time I remember we got swept by Michigan, and our head coach had played at the University of Michigan. And after the game, the one day he had some choice words for us, and then he was like, "You might as well just leave your equipment in the locker room tomorrow. Just bring your running shoes." And I remember we ran. I think it was 18 timed pulls, and we had to run them backwards. And I remember getting out of bed the next day. I was on the top bunk, and I jumped down to get on the floor, and my legs did not support me. I went straight to the ground. I'll always remember that. But
Man, I
yeah.
think I think so many baseball players from around that time. I'm 41, so not far from your era, but like have stories of insane conditioning that has not applicable to baseball in any way. Just pure punishment, pure
Yeah,
just
you'd probably be fired for today. Yep.
right. Just
But we made it. We're still here somehow. So
right. We made it, buddy. What did you major in? And then secondly, did you think you were going to be using that degree, or were you just like, hey, I'm going to school because I want to play ball?
I was definitely in that mentality. I was playing ball. And
Me too.
then my degree is in interdisciplinary social sciences with a certificate in business. So a lot of
Okay.
soc, a lot
Yeah.
of psych, and then business stuff. So, honestly, a lot of it has helped me.
Yeah.
I always tell guys, like, looking back, like, the things that you're into, the things you're interested in are the things you should study. Like,
Yeah.
had I hurt my arm before I went to school, I probably would have studied anatomy,
Yeah.
because it had a practical application for me. I think at the time it was just like whatever they told me to take is what
Yeah.
I would take so I could play.
Interesting.
We had a really good support system at Michigan State. When I first got there, Steve Smith donated money to build a place for student athletes to go study. So like at the
Cool.
time it was like the first Ethernet, and then it was like we had tutors, and I'll just always remember like they took really good care of us, making sure we got our degrees.
Yeah. So looking back, then would you have tried to study something that was a little more interesting to you, or do you feel like you were cool on that path?
I mean, yeah, I think I would have studied more of the body and nutrition and some of
Yeah.
the things that at the time, I was just on the SAD, the standard American diet.
Yeah. For sure. Now that's funny you mentioned that because I can remember I was just starting to get into some like Eastern philosophy stuff, like as an early college guy. When I transferred to Murray State, they have you pick your major, and I wanted to pick philosophy, and they were just like, "No, you're not going to do that." Essentially, they steered me towards a very easy major, that I could just play ball with. And anyway, I think a lot of ball players have
Yeah,
experienced that, right?
absolutely. Well, and I think that's a choice and a sacrifice that we probably all made because
Yeah.
that was the dream and the goal.
100%. Yep. So then this is the blind spot for me. I don't see anything on Baseball Reference or Baseball Cube about any summer ball stuff. Did you go to any draft leagues, any of that stuff, playing summer ball, wood bat stuff while you were at Michigan State?
Yeah, I did. I played for the first summer I played in Grand Rapids.
Okay.
I'm trying to think of the name of the team. It slipped my mind, but it was more of a men's league, but it was a good men's league.
Yeah.
And I stayed at home. The next 2 summers, I went to Columbus to play for the Columbus All-Americans in the Great Lakes League.
Okay. Cool. All right. So then,
And those were really good summers for me. Really good summers.
okay. I've
That
got
was
some
fun.
more Gunderson clips here. Let's run
Let's
through some
go.
of these. You ready?
Yeah,
What
I
are some
love the
funny
Gundy
ones here?
clips.
Let's go. Next one is going to be Free Spirit. Here we go.
I'd love to. So we kind of touched on it a little bit. I know him as very eccentric and free spirit. He's got his whole pitching thing, his camp now, and all this stuff, and he integrates all kind of interesting stuff into it. Was he this much of a free spirit at Michigan State?
Free spirit, there were going to be conversations that were going to be off the rails or liberal or out of left field with him.
Yeah.
Like remember stuff, no, but just some of the things like he would say, and you'd just be like, where did that come from? You know, and here I am as the pitching coach, and we're trying to get directed.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, he always had a different view on things. Not like disrespectful or that it didn't work. He just, you know, he put a little different spin on things.
That certainly sounds like you, my friend. Certainly sounds like you. Let's
Sounds
go.
about right.
Let's go next one. Connection.
The thing is about when you're in baseball, but you have to be able to connect with people. And is you know, eccentric and out there and, you know, left side, right side, liberal, whatever you want to call it. He connects with people. And that, I mean, that's one thing that I'm a big believer in. That's what I do. I connect with people. And he could connect guys, the high school guys to the big league guys. He makes it real.
Yeah.
You know, it's like if you're doing something stupid, it'd be like, hey, that's fucking stupid, right?
Right.
But if you're doing something great, he's like, man, that's pretty good, huh? Wow, holy shit, that's great. But he knows you know, from his crazy ass journey of college, organizational baseball, you know, organized team, organization, and then, you know, 10 years in independent baseball? And then, you know, he got to go back and pitch again with that, but just...
You got anything, brother?
Just laughable. Yeah. I mean,
well, you're about to laugh some more. The next one is called the cartwheel story. Are you ready for it?
I figured he probably dropped this one on you.
I was rolling for this one. All right, here we go. Gundy, the cartwheel story.
All right.
I'll tell you the cartwheel story, but I want you to ask him. So,
okay.
My neighbor, who was a East Lansing policeman, did security for the football tailgates. And he did them where the baseball guys hung out.
Okay.
And they're like, nah, baseball guys are awesome. They're always coming up and asking if they want a drink, they want something to eat, whatever it is. He's like, your guys are awesome. He goes, come over and see me. So one day, for a game, I go over to see my buddy, Brad. And he goes, yeah, all your boys are over there. Well, I'm sitting in the parking lot talking to Brad. Well, this is Huizinga, who at the time had dyed his hair white. Pure white. So you imagine a 6'6" donkey at a tailgate, and he's jumping up and down. Hey, look at me, look at me. And he starts doing cartwheels down the sidewalk. And about his fourth or fifth cartwheel, he just freaking eats it and bites it. And he's standing there, and he's laying on the ground laughing, and he gets up, and he's like jumping up and down, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm sitting there watching this, and I'm like, wow, what a proud moment. So Sunday, we have practice. It's in the fall, and I go, hey, Johnny, come here. I go, I'm going to do something and describe something, and I want you to tell me who it is. So I go through the act. I'm jumping up and down, then I do cartwheels, and I fall down and bust my ass. Then I get up, and I'm like jumping up and down. He looks at me, he goes, he's like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? But this is how I communicate. That's my conversation with guys. So part of Johnny's conversations with people comes back to me. Because this is how I communicate. I was open. Hey, you can say whatever you want. You know, if you're disrespectful, we'll address it. But he says it, I'm like, you dumbass, I was over parked at the tennis courts, and I saw you do this yesterday. He goes, oh, you were over at the tailgate? I go, yeah. I saw this bleach blonde-haired fucking 6'6" donkey do this. He goes, the best part? He goes, the game was at noon. At 12:30, I was in bed. I was so
That's terrific.
Oh, wow.
And I'm like, yeah.
All right. Is it okay that we shared that?
Yeah, I mean that's hilarious. Anybody that knew me at that point, that's not going to surprise anybody.
Not going to be
It's all in
shocking.
good, clean fun, you know.
Okay, let's transition then. We're at about an hour and
Oh,
a half.
Gundy, he loves to tell that story, though. He
I could
loves to
tell.
tell that.
I could tell. That's probably his go-to zinger story, isn't it?
I think, yeah, that's probably a pretty good one.
Can you still do cartwheels?
I do. In fact, I like guys to do them with their delivery, which
I
is
love it.
what makes it really funny because that came full circle too.
Perfect. Let's move on. So obviously you're going to be transitioning now from, college to pro ball. I imagine you had aspirations of getting picked up. Were there any talks with scouts about being drafted? Where were you at in this cycle?
Yeah, so I mean, at the time, yes, I planned on getting drafted. Actually, I planned on getting drafted my junior year. It didn't happen. And then I thought I'd get drafted my senior year, and it didn't happen. I had some conversations. I'd even had people told me I could go as high as the 5th through the 10th round.
Uh-huh.
And then basically, long story short, this was years and years later. I had a conversation with a scout, and basically what had happened is I had made it through a certain point. They sent out the cross checkers, and the day against the cross checkers, I was flat.
Really?
So it was, yeah, and it was interesting because I remember it was my senior year. I had a really good outing against, I think it was Indiana, and there was a guy, Kennard Jones, was a left-handed hitter, was coming up, and I came in, I popped 94 from a low slot, and I punched some guys out. And then that's what drew some more of the attention. And then I remember the day that the cross checker was there, it was a start instead of a relief appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at Western Michigan. And I just remember it because it was flatter that day. And it was sometimes at that point in my career, I'd have a hard time almost tiring myself out enough in my warm up to let the ball have its action. Like I'd be too,
Interesting.
especially for us when I was starting. Now as a reliever, it was different because I could just come in, balls to the wall, hair on fire.
Yeah.
But as a starter, it was like sometimes it'd take me an inning or two, which later in my career I would throw more.
Yeah.
But one of those
Interesting.
things.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think initially thought I would get drafted, did not, went to an independent league tryout, or it was set up for me. It was with the Chillicothe Paints.
Yeah. Frontier.
And yep, so I threw for them. They were going to sign me. The team they were playing against was the Kalamazoo Kings.
Yeah.
The Kalamazoo Kings had a guy named Matt Sheets on that team. Matt Sheets was a player coach, and Matt was a Grand Rapids A's guy that
Really?
was 2 years older than me. So it was actually a guy that I had pitched against the day that I was telling you about earlier.
Yeah.
But Matt basically said, "Hey, he's from Michigan. We want him. Can we trade for him?" So basically, I tried out for one team. If I remember right, I technically signed with them, and then they traded my rights to Kalamazoo, and then went to Kalamazoo. I had one appearance, and I went out, and I was so amped up that I couldn't see the catcher. Like everything was really blurry. Everything was, and if I remember right, I like walked a guy, hit a guy.
Yep.
And then my second baseman, Diggs Edwards, came out, and I'll always remember this too. Came out and he snaps his fingers like this in front of my face, and he's like, "You've been hypnotized." And all of a sudden, I could see. It was the craziest thing. But then by that point, I think I gave up, I don't know, 2 or 3 runs and only got one out, and I got pulled out, and then I got released. It was either the next day or something like that. Somebody came off. Yeah, somebody came off the DL.
Yeah.
And I was the guy, the newest one in, and it was time to go. But then they said, and it was towards the end of the season.
Yeah.
And they said, come to spring training next year. So I basically went back to Michigan State, graduated, and then went into spring training with the Kings.
Yeah.
And I was throwing 96 miles an hour, and I was out running foul poles. And I remember, because I mean, guns were around, but they weren't around like they are now,
Yeah.
And I was out running my foul poles or whatever after I threw. And the guys are like, "Do you have any idea how hard you were throwing?" And I'm like, "No, I had no idea." And they're like, "You were 94 to 96." And it was
What are you
like,
doing
oh,
in
okay.
independent baseball?
Well, that kind of, yeah. So four starts into the year,
Yeah.
I had my contract bought by the Brewers, and I
Yeah.
remember I think I had 7 teams call for me that were going to sign, and I
Really?
happened to be inside when the Brewers called,
Oh man.
and yeah, got sent to the
Let's
Midwest League. So
let's not get too far into that yet. I want to get
yeah,
through.
deal.
Yeah, this is the dude. We got a journey. Let's. So we've got about 25 or so minutes left. Let's
Cool.
get through some Pat Gill clips, and this guy was incredible.
Oh boy.
He's obviously
Okay.
been through a lot of your journey and had just some interesting stuff to say. Can you speak to me a little bit about your relationship with Pat? How do you know him? Stuff like that. He's been around since Grand Rapids A's, right?
Yeah, I think we were probably 14 or 15 when we met,
So cool.
and Pat was always big, tall, threw hard. He was a first baseman and a pitcher.
Yeah.
I remember Pat is the reason I stopped catching because he threw a split finger and it was so nasty. I hated catching it. And I was probably 17, 18. I'm like, I'm done catching. I'll play third
Done with
person
this?
pitch. But yeah, no, we were roommates.
Yeah.
In fact, he lives in Detroit. We just went and watched Scuba's last home start together
Yeah.
and got to hang out. But yeah, typically if I go to Detroit, I get to go see Pat. So
Yeah.
we go a ways back.
He's been
He's a
on your journey
character.
for a
He's
lot of it.
funny. He's funny. Yeah, he's good people, but he's a funny guy. I
I
enjoy
mean, like
him.
high school, we went to Michigan State together, and then he was kind of there at the inception of your kind of backyard lab, like pitching stuff, right?
Yeah, he's been around and he actually moved out to Arizona with me when we moved out to Arizona.
You said you guys were like valeting together. Is that something that you remember that?
Yeah. Hell
Oh
yeah.
man. Yeah. Crazy. That's kind of that's what he said. He said, I think we'll get to a clip here, but he talked about valeting and that turning into it, him doing some pitching lessons, then him being like, I'm moving home. Here, take my some of my guys, and then that kind of,
Yep.
it's crazy how stuff like that works. Let's start off with Pat Gill, a long history. Here we go.
Jon and I have a long history together, and that started pretty much. That started when I was probably 14, 15. I'd say we played on the same summer team together. I had moved to Michigan when I was 13 years old, and was looking for a team to play for. Started doing some lessons at the same place that he was doing lessons, so I guess that was probably around 13, and that was the Grand Rapids A's. And that's where I met Jon for the first time. Did some lessons. We played on Mickey Mantle, which is 15, 16-year-old team. And then we played on the Connie Mack team, which was 17, 18-year-old. Both signed with Michigan State. And, we've had a journey, throughout and experienced a lot of really great things together.
And then I'm gonna move right into friendship over the years, and then we can riff.
Cool.
Jon and I, our friendship has just strengthened over the years, and I wouldn't say when we first started playing, we were running the same group, and he is one of the most loyal. I mean, if I ever need anything, I could call Jon up and he'd help me out, and our friendship and relationship has just grown, tenfold. And he knows things about me and my life that really, my wife only knows, and I'm not afraid to share that. And I think he has that type of personality where he listens and he'll be there for you and he'll give advice, and you want to trust his advice because it just comes off as genuine.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, if anybody's ever been around him, he comes off as very authentic.
Yeah.
And my relationship with him is probably like a relationship that he has with a lot of people, which is you do anything for him just like he'd do anything for you. And that relationship has just strengthened over time.
Warm words from Pat Gill there. Everyone has echoed that you're an incredible listener. Do you have anything to chime in off of either of these clips?
I mean, it brings me back to so many fun memories, but I think, like any relationship, you have your growing pains, you have your moments that kind of bring you together. Pat and I lived together a couple different times. So, and I can remember even just driving back from Grand Rapids to East Lansing together. Like, hey, I'm going back. He'd have a car, or hey, I'm going back. And we just, yeah, I think that's the lifelong relationships that,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just brings so much value to being a human.
Oh man, beautiful. The next one is work harder at their craft. This is cool.
I don't know if there's a person that will work harder at their craft than him. I think, I think his mentality is that baseball is his life. He's either going to pitch professionally, he's going to train professionally, but baseball is always going to be the number one thing in his life that's going to really make him complete. He's not an office guy, but he was always one that was always willing to, put the time in, put the effort in, he would study, he would talk to others, he used to keep a notebook. I'm sure he still does. And he reads a lot. And I think without that knowledge that he can just kind of, like a sponge where he just soaks up all that information and he makes it his own. I think that's one thing that others may not be willing to do that he's always done. It was weight room. I mean, like I said, he wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the most athletic, but he actually became one of the more athletic, pitchers as we got older, only because he was willing to put in the extra time and effort to become great.
Love it. Got anything?
Yeah, I mean, spot on. I think I talk to guys about this all the time, but it's like sometimes the guys that pick stuff up so quick and so easy, like it gives no value versus I
Yeah.
think for me there's a lot of struggle that has created
Yeah.
what maybe some people see as success now.
Yeah.
But I think it's continued struggle that will continue to keep me growing too. And that's the challenge. Like sometimes we get comfortable in life and it's like, for me, that's what I try to stay away from. And it's, Lord knows there's enough things that keep us uncomfortable.
Sure.
But I think sometimes when you lean into those things and you choose them,
Yeah.
like it allows you to keep growing, where it's like, I think if I had, one thing that, people are like, are you afraid of anything? It's like, if I'm afraid of anything, it'd be becoming too comfortable or complacent
Ooh.
and just like being okay with how things are versus how I would like them to be. Where it's like, you have your things where it's like, this is how I think the world should be. This is how the world is. And it's like, okay, first of all, you can never pretend it's going to be how you think it should be.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, you never have to settle for where it is, where it's like, hey, if I can nudge this thing one bump in the right direction today, it's worth me struggling today to have moved to that next spot tomorrow and put me in a better place. And sometimes it's humbling, right? This game and this life, but it's continuing to challenge yourself in a way that you can keep pushing forward.
Man, this is incredible, dude. Struggling today to move forward better tomorrow is like, this is so incredible, man. I'm so glad that we're here. Let's
Me too,
move
bro.
on.
This is fun.
Do it at the highest level. Here we go.
His father was a pretty hard-nosed guy and hard-working guy. I think he worked at Steelcase I believe he was an engineer, and kind of shared that mentality. Pretty much if you're going to do something, do it at the highest level, do it at the best you can. And I think that's really transitioned into his baseball career, and seeing him now come up the ranks as one of the top pitching coaches in the country. I just don't think anybody understands kind of what he's capable of. And some people might take him for granted like they did when he was a pitcher, young growing up, but he was always somebody that wasn't going to back down, and that was the mentality that he had.
Love it. I'll keep rolling unless you got anything.
No, I mean, I love that. I think that's that same thing where it's like, just keep moving forward.
Yep, for sure. Next one is going to be Pat Gill, Not Afraid. Here we go.
And I'm in the training, and so I want to say that because it's just the kind of how Jon isn't afraid to take risks.
Yeah.
And he certainly did that with the pitching tunnel and the backyard, and seeing these kids that really, that started at a very, very young age, and a lot of his guys are now, not only pitching, great in high school and college, but he's got a handful of professionals that he has worked with, and I know the Tarek Skubals and the other kids that he's taught along the way, but it's really impressive to see. But that's kind of how that all started, which is he's just not afraid to take risks that others may not be willing to do.
Love that. You got anything to add on to that?
I mean, I think that's
Taking risks.
trust at the end of the day, but I think also, I mean, without risk, how do we move forward, right?
Yeah, love it. And it rolls right into this one. Next one is fearless. So here we go.
As a pitcher, he's pretty fearless whenever he was pitching. His mentality was always that he was going to get you out no matter what. And Jon may not have been the best athlete. He was a good athlete, but he may not have been the best athlete. He may not have thrown the hardest. He may not have had some of the electric fastballs that some of these other guys have, but he would never back down from a challenge. He was always, he would fight a tooth and nail to get you out. And he relied on that type of mentality on the mound. He relied on a lot of movement with his pitches. He was always experimenting to become better, to get more movement, to get his two-seam fastball is probably one of the filthiest pitches that, if anybody can learn how to throw that pitch consistently, you're going to have success.
Okay. Next one is a funny one, unless you got anything. It's called Cushions in the Street.
Oh boy. Yeah.
You ready?
Let's see what you got here. Yeah.
We would in college, like all college kids, we would play video games. And I remember he would, there were times when there were walls that were busted. We would playing Mario Tennis or Mario Kart or, one of these games. He would always flip out whenever he would lose. And he would throw cushions in the street. If we were up against it with anybody else, he'd always be the first person to step in and kind of throw his weight around a little bit. He was never ever afraid, and I have so many stories of just great times in college where it wasn't really about the baseball, but just about the camaraderie that we had, the friendship that we had, and that we kind of went through it together.
Okay. Anything?
Oh, I love it. Well, part of this, Pat was so dang good at video games that nobody could beat him. So that was part of it. It's not like it was just like, hey, I got beat once and I was mad. It was like he would beat all of us. And eventually it was like there was remotes on the street or cushions or dishes or there might have been a couple holes in the wall.
I've been there, brother. I've been there. We got two more from him. He's been so incredible. Let's go. Doesn't surprise me, and then how it all started. We'll finish it. Here we go.
All right, cool.
Yeah, what he's doing doesn't surprise me. It really doesn't. I mean, when we lived in Arizona, we were always taking trips, taking hikes, going, just driving and just kind of being the free spirit. And he has a little bit more of that than I do. But that certainly doesn't surprise me that he takes those trips because they're so valuable. And I don't even, people don't understand how valuable those experiences can be. You're going out there with, people that you go into battle with on the baseball field and that you train with, and that these guys are pushing each other to become better, but they're also getting better at, when I see videos of these guys throwing on rocks, that's working on balance. That's not just going out there and wasting time and, seeing a pretty sunset. There's a method to his madness, and I think that's so important. And that's just part of his personality, again, is just the willingness to do things that others may not be willing to do. He works out in bare feet. He lights incense when he pitches because it frees the mind and makes you feel a certain way. He's big on diet, and he's big on, writing your feelings down. I don't know too many others that are willing to do that. Yeah. And it just goes to show you that he is.
Awesome. Unless you got anything, I'm going to finish up with how it all started.
Yeah, let's do it.
Ready to go? Okay. And that'll finish out our Pat Gill. Here we go.
And I had a place to stay. And one of the places that I was valeting was at the Arizona Diamondbacks facility. And during the games, there was nothing to do. So I walked in one day and I said, hey, I would love to, if there's any jobs to be done, I am a pitcher, I've taught, I've done all this. And they were like, sure, we're going to send you to camps around Arizona, and you're going to run the camps and week-long camps. And I said, fantastic, I'll do that. I ended up getting a business card made up, and whenever kids would come over to my station for pitching, I'd hand them my card, and that's how I started doing some lessons on the side. Come full circle, Jon ended up moving back out to Arizona. He went back to Michigan, came back to Arizona, and the time had come where he was coming in. We lived together for a short time, and then I was moving back to Michigan to be with my girlfriend, now wife. Her name is Lindsay, and he took over my kids.
Really?
So the kids that I was training, he actually took them over, and he started doing some training in their backyard. One of the first kids' name was actually Blake.
Oh man, that's how it
True
started.
Story. Yeah, awesome.
That's incredible. That concludes our Pat Gill clips. We've got about 10 minutes left, and instead of going into your pro career, because I really kind of like to do that all at once, let's move back to some baseball Q&A here. Just like some fun questions to kind of round it out. Are you cool with that?
Yes, sir.
Cool, man. So let's go teammates. So teammates that you've played with, who was the fastest guy you ever played with?
Joey Gathright.
Hands down? Just next level speed?
I mean, if you look it up, I think they compare him to Bo Jackson and Ricky Henderson.
Yeah, just
So,
unreal. Yeah.
yeah.
Do you have any stories like what you remember him just doing something that was just jumps off the charts to you?
I mean, so I was a sinker guy, and if you hit a ball over one of my outfielders' heads, that's on me. And I just remember multiple times having conversations with Joey because he would come in and catch. I would jam guys a lot or get weak contact, and he would come in and catch baseballs that, I mean, next to nobody else had caught for me. Maybe a couple guys. I mean, I remember a guy, Kennard Bibbs, that was really good too out there. And but I'll always remember Joey just coming in and catching it, and then it just lead to epic conversations later. But where he was literally so fast that all he had to do is touch the ball, and it felt like he could stand on first base.
Oh man, I love that. Yeah, he had a really unique career too. We'll get into that later, but best outfield arm.
Oh boy. Let's see here, Blake. That's a great question. I am racking my brain here.
We could come back to it. You want to circle back?
No, give me 1 second. Let's see. All the outfielders are popping into my head right now.
You played with a lot of dudes.
Oh man, the best. That's a big one. I'm trying to think of somebody that just would hose people. Yeah, we might have to come back to that one, buddy.
Well, would best
I'm gonna have
infield
to
arm
think
break your
about
brain
that
too?
one. Best infield arm. I mean, I can tell you probably the most amazing shortstop that I played with, and I played with some good ones, but
There we go.
Orlando Arcia, when he was we were together in 2014 in Brevard, and this one specific play, and it's not necessarily the speed of the throw, but it was the way he moved through the ball. And I remember I came in and it was like bases loaded, tying runners on third, and I got this chopper over my head that I thought the game was over. And he just comes in and just flicks it over there, and he was gone. Man, that's probably the sweetest play I saw. I played with a guy, Nelson Castro, that played shortstop. That, I mean, he had a strong arm, super strong arm.
Okay. Let's go most arm talent that you ever played with as a pitcher that you saw?
That I played with.
If you don't want to do played with, you can just say that you've seen, just as a coach as well, if you want.
I mean, I think the first time I saw him throw, Michael Kopech was one of the guys that I was just like, who is this guy? And I knew who he was already, but I mean, it
Yeah.
was obviously seeing Scoop throw 100 miles an hour indoors,
Yeah.
impressive. I'm trying to think of
Sure.
like when I was playing, I mean, 2003, I remember that was kind of my first affiliated stint, and we had Manny Parra,
Oh yeah.
who ended up having, I think, like an 8-year big league
Yeah.
career, and I've got to train him, and I love him. He's one of my favorite people. But just had nasty stuff. There was
Yeah.
another guy, Dennis Sarfate, on that team that just threw cheddar.
Yeah.
Really good fastball. I mean, I've played with so many guys that were really good. I mean, Taylor Williams, when I played with him in 2014, was blowing a hundy, I think, at the
Yeah.
time. I mean, Shelby Miller's as good of an arm as you're ever going to see. Those are
Sure.
just kind of the guys that are popping in my brain
For
right
sure.
now. But
Okay. Most
Trevor
power.
McGill's about as intimidating as anything you'll ever see. I mean,
For sure.
6'8", standing out there like he's throwing a ball off a mountain.
Yeah. What's who had the most power that you ever played with or saw as a hitter?
Well, a couple. First, Prince Fielder.
Jose?
Prince Fielder was unbelievable. Now,
Oh, you
Jose.
did play with. Oh God, that
Yeah.
stint when you played in affiliated, you had some dogs on that team.
Oh, we did. Yeah, they were stacked. But Prince
Ricky
Fielder
Weeks?
used to
Yeah.
hit balls. Ricky Weeks used to hit the ball hard.
Yeah.
Super hard. And then, yeah, so when I got to play with Jose Canseco that summer, you know, and it kind of it would show up because he would hit sometimes 2 rounds of BP. And other guys were hitting the balls over the fence, and he'd hit them over the lights.
Yeah. Oh man.
And it was just
unreal. And he, how old would he have been at that time? Was he mid to late 40s?
He had to
50s?
be in his 40s. He had to be in his 40s.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So then bat speed. You just said Ricky Weeks. I always thought he had an absolute whip for bat speed. Is that top of the food chain that you can think of that you played with?
I feel like he
speed-wise?
just hit the ball so hard, like playing against. I think the hardest ball I ever saw hit, I was in spring training with the Rockies,
Uh-huh.
and Justin Upton
Ooh.
was with the D-backs,
Mhm.
and I forget who was on the mound. One of our guys was on the mound, but it was literally like as hard as you can ever hit a ball, and it was, yeah, he was impressive too.
Man, we'll get to some. I can't wait to talk about Prince and some of those guys when we get there. What about funniest teammate of all time?
Man, depends on the kind of funny. Like Felix Jose was unbelievable because he's from the Dominican, right? He had played in the big leagues forever. The year I played with him, he hit 405, okay, which was stupid.
Yeah.
But the things that would come out of his mouth sometimes, that, I mean, you would laugh so hard until you cried.
One of those guys.
You know, and a lot of times it's like, you know, we were obviously, he was way veteran, but I was a veteran at the time too, so we'd always sit in the back of the bus together.
Yeah.
And I'll just remember laughing. Another really funny guy, Marcel Longmire.
Okay.
He was a catcher when I played with the Saints. He grew up with CC Sabathia, but and I think he's still up in the San Francisco area, but he was so funny. We just roll on the back of the bus laughing. Really, really funny. There's a kid I played with in college, Dylan Putnam, that still pops into my head. Dylan would do impersonations, and there was a particular game we had a rain out with Ohio State, and we were playing at the Lansing Lugnut Stadium.
Yeah.
And Nick Swisher was on the team at the time.
Swish.
And Dylan comes out, and he's got like wristbands and all this stuff, and he goes out, and it's a rain delay, and he goes out there and like acts like he's Swisher, and it was so funny. I'll always remember it. And then there was a particular PFP. It was my freshman year. I'll always remember it. We were practicing at the stadium. Same thing. We were getting ready to play Notre Dame. and or maybe it was my sophomore year because I think he transferred in, whatever. And there's a bunt play. We're practicing bunt plays, and I pick it up like outside of my body instead of like where you're supposed to, like in your center, like you're gonna drop your cup on it. I pick it up out here, and I threw it 15 rows deep into the bleachers. And he used to relive that one for us too. It was just so funny, especially to laugh at yourself like that. But
For
yeah,
sure, man.
those are probably the top ones that come to my brain right now.
Okay. Let's finish with one more question, and then we'll get out of here. We'll kind of cap this as our 2 hour here. What are your favorite baseball smells, if you have any?
A brand new glove
Yeah.
and pine tar cigar. Because my grandpa always smoked cigars, and I would always know he was at the game when I could smell a cigar.
Really?
So yeah, I'd say those are my top three. But like the smell of a new glove when you can just, I had a guy in yesterday that had some new gloves, and he handed me, and I'm just like,
right to your
like
face.
there's just that, right to my face, and it just like fills up your lungs. It's like better than smelling salts. But then pine tar has always had that good smell. Yep. And then stogies.
For sure. Well, man, we're at 2 hours here. I think this is a great place for us to stop. And then obviously we're going to have multiple parts to this, but this has been everything that I hoped it could be. You're incredible, man. You are a light. I thank you so much for giving me some of your time. I always say that, time is the greatest gift that you can give someone. So thank you, brother. This has been so cool. I cannot wait to continue on this journey with you. You got anything before we get out of here?
No, I just want to thank you. I think that this has been an eye-opening experience for me, but also just like a heart-opening experience. Like sometimes the game and all the things that we go through to get to where we get, it's that much more rewarding to know that you're making a difference. And I think some of the stuff that you played for me was just a rekindling of my spirit, but my servant's heart, where I want to help guys. And it's like when the extra effort is being noticed, and the attention to details being noticed, and some of the things that you hear these guys say, I think it's inspiring to keep on this crazy path.
So beautiful. And that's kind of what you were doing when you asked me to send you a couple of those interviews, right? You kind of just wanted to hear what these guys were thinking a little bit. And like,
I kind of wanted to get a vibe on it too, and just kind of get and at the time I was, especially with Bo and Scoob, I was getting ready to do some stuff with them specifically. So I was just curious.
Cool.
The lens that they were seeing things through. So it was helpful to hear.
Dude. And thank you so much. You have, from when we started this journey of when you started opening up doors for me, I mean, the podcast has exploded, and a lot of that is the doors that you opened for me. Like I have a tagline now when I talk to people or when I'm trying to open a door, I say I've talked with everyone from Tony La Russa to Tarek Skubal, and you can fill in the blanks in between, and everyone in between would speak up for me and vouch for me, and that's a powerful thing to say. So I'm going to give you all your flowers along this way, but you have meant so much to me along this journey too. Thank you, brother. So this is going to be part 1. We're going to call this "He Wasn't Going to Quit." This is the Jon Huizinga story, and we're out of here. Here we go.
Oh, now.
All right.